So what you're gonna see with this movement prep sequence that I put together is it's very much centered around two things. I'm trying to prime for a specific pattern. This specific pattern I would say would be the gait pattern as I sprint and as I run. So I used this various exercises and stacked it in a way. I just went with it, and I felt like that would be the best thing in a couple minutes to prime it. Could I have better done it with 30 seconds, 45 seconds? Sure, it's possible. Needless to say, I wanted to get a good connection from the ground up, give you guys something to play with a little bit and get you thinking about some things. So just to make a point with that is that the movements I did and the time in which I did them, the timing could be more to exhaust the nervous system as well. So the way I set it up was more so to just get my body familiar with the patterns. Granted, it wasn't super intense, but to some nervous systems that might be an overload and the body may not perform as optimally. So I want to just make that clear, since we are kind of doing research here. I want to make sure there's a good understanding of that process. And taking that process forward, right, complete pun intended, right, would be when I'm doing the prep work on the mat, what I was incorporating, again, all around gait patterning, and how that was set up as I did the first activity. You would see it has to do more with me loading into the foot, right? As I load it into the foot, I'm teaching my body to be able to absorb ground forces, right, all the way through. So as I'm doing that, I would have already done like an activity like short foot, where I'm working on engaging the foot, and I'm using the foot and I'm sequencing that up with the hips and the core, right, with my pelvic floor and everything else, training a reflex. So that way, every time I hit the ground, right, my body absorbs those forces from the ground up like a reflex. So that's what I was doing with that first priming piece, where I'm moving into it, again, stacking from another process that I might have incorporated, okay? The second part that you'll see I go into is I have the foot on the ground and I'm driving the leg up, right? And the goal of that is to incorporate that gripping activity, right, as I drive through and push off into that extended position on that stance leg. And what that is going to do is that's going to simulate me bursting off the ground. Granted, I'm standing fully, so I'm not coming off the ground, but that's going to prime the body, so when I'm actually pushing off, it has that familiarity. And of course, I did that on both sides just to make sure that my brain body was more connected. Even though I would be pushing off this side, it does help the process of pushing off both feet when I am running, because I have to grip and drive it to extension or behind me to make that work. So that's why I did both, plus to get my nervous system more attuned as a whole. And then what you'll see after this is I incorporate that. I just ramped it up with doing some jumps, right? So as you can see on all this stuff, I started with a slower tempo and I built up, right? It's all priming the system for the run piece that I was about ready to do. Again, I am starting slow and then I have to burst, right? So I'm training that process to be more effective. And again, the jumping is just more of that explosiveness. And you even see I even went down on the ground and simulated that process as well, just to give you guys some things to consider. I may not have done all those. I might have just been going to the ground and doing this, but I decided to incorporate that because I thought that would be kind of fun and entertaining for you guys to see, but also very good to get my system ready to go and so on. And the last part I could have put first, but I did a gait pattern on the ground, and it was more about, now that I got my feet involved, I'm kind of working up the body, right? So as I'm on the ground here and I'm using my hands and feet in a crawling, lunging or crawling gait pattern, right, where I'm moving my hand and my feet opposite, the contralateral coordination. As I'm doing that, I'm also priming my nervous system. I'm getting my body to engage the front side of it, as well as with the core through the whole body when I move. And of course, once I get up, I prime it to the back side, so now I got the front line and the back lines of my body more connected, so when I'm running, I have more options. So again, all this is to give you an explanation of how you could do a movement prep sequence, and of course for you to see exactly how I went about this on the Naboso mat to optimize my performance so I can actually run faster. All right, let's do this.